you're bringing in the same umbrella where you can start to get some oversight and control on these player compensation things. So you don't have a guy rolling down and Alabama booster dropping $5 million on Quinn Ewers' doorstep before he even plays a snap. It's just schools realizing how quickly this money can get out of hand and how quickly you're handing this to 18-year-old kids is a little bit different than a guy that's been through a college program and going to the NFL and getting that contract. So I think it's just one of those that it's necessary. There were a lot of different factors that all hit at the exact same time, and it caused schools to look for solutions. And I think that schools are willing to get a little bit more creative because they saw in the pandemic state, things can change quickly, but we can also be adaptable and we can change to accommodate that.
Yep, completely agree. It was a perfect storm. I think the smart schools, i.e. Texas and Oklahoma, saw this coming. They saw this coming probably sooner than it actually happened. Boomer because sooner. Boomer sooner.
I mean, Ohio State and those of the world, Clemson of the world saw this coming too. Unless Dabo's making the decisions, then Dabo still thinks that the players aren't going to get paid. I don't even know what Dabo thinks, but
I love the headlines that say. Yeah, I love the headlines that say that the players are finally making more through endorsements than they were under the table.
But the reality is it seems the idea of handing an 18-year-old kid that hasn't even played a college snap millions of dollars seems crazy to me, like wild to me, because you get these kids that they don't even get the money and they still think they've made it just because they step foot on Alabama with the scholarship and they never pan out. And so it's just, you don't have unlimited money to just be handing money out to these kids, but at the same time, you're going to be paying an 18-year-old more than what Nick Saban is paying by the time you get there, just because we've seen what happens with player salaries when you're in a competitive environment.
Well, yeah, at the same time, it might also be like NBA Top Shot, where you get a big frenzy of money at the very beginning to set a market, and then it implodes because there's no foundation there. It's just they're just throwing dollar bills up in the air to see who catches them. But the TV money is where it's always at. And you made a really good point with the bidding war that this is going to create, where this sort of movement could void some certain TV contracts based on conference realignment happening. And if that happens, we have a whole new round of bidding for all these great, huge market games that are going to be played in a mega conference or of a few super conferences. So you're going to have CBS, ABC/ESPN, and Fox just duking it out. And then you got your private, like Texas has their own network. Notre Dame has their own network. You have the SEC network, which is already huge with ESPN. All these established networks are still going to be there because they were already tied with certain companies, media companies. But you're going to have those allegiances shaken a bit if they have a big super conference. I think the best position is to be like Texas or Notre Dame, where we saw this coming a while back and we already have our own private media networks, so we can go wherever we want.
Well, the story is Texas nuked their network as part of this agreement with the SEC, so that's supposedly gone. And the other story that came out today that I saw was essentially the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma. They went to their partners in Fox, and they said, hey, we want to lock in the TV money. We want to push it out a couple more years. And Fox told them, you're not worth what you think you're worth. And that's where some of this came from. Fox said, we're not going to push this out. We're not going to give you this more money because you're just not worth what you think you're worth in this contract, because the reality of it is Texas football not what Texas football was 5-10 years ago. And even Oklahoma, despite them being a playoff contender, they haven't won anything in the playoff. And so that is not really the brand that you're looking at within Alabama or within Ohio State right now. It's just not moving the needle quite like these schools think they were. And so that's a big factor in going to the SEC.
Yeah, Oklahoma, all you ever did was make top draft picks. God.
Oklahoma is the most overrated program in America, and I will say that. I don't care. Yeah. They barely make it through a watered-down Big 12. They get officiating help every single week, and it's the most ridiculous thing. And then they go into this playoff game, and they get boat raced every single time. I'm happy to join the SEC because now they'll get boat raced weekly by LSU, Auburn, whoever it might be, and we can stop talking about Oklahoma as being this blue blood program. Lincoln Riley can run off the NFL, be the next Eagles coach, and then get fired after 2 years.